Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 821. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about how to develop self-worth and esteem, even if you think you have zero. That is my goal and plan and intention for us today. I want us to go into a place, a realm that will allow us to see ourselves from a different place. Most of the people that I hear from kind of go to the beliefs of like, I am not good enough. I am not worthy. I'm not deserving. I'm not capable. I'm not of value. You see, those identity statements really have a huge impact on everything that we do, right? Because if I don't feel like I'm of any value, how am I going to get the relationship that I truly, really want? Like, how is it even possible? If I have such little self-value, I'm going to choose unconsciously a narcissist or someone to take advantage, or just someone who's not someone we really want in our life, but because we have so much self or low self-worth, it causes us to go, might as well settle for this person, even though it's not on your heart. Same thing when it comes to our career. If you want to progress up the career ladder, if you want to be earning the abundance that maybe you consciously desire, if you have such a low level of value, you're always going to feel like an imposter, like you're not good enough to deal with that situation in the job. You're not going to feel like you're going to have the necessary skills. Even on paper, you might have all the skills. A part of you on the inside will be just negating your opportunity to progress. It will be self-sabotaging your experience to make you feel like a failure, to make you feel like a fraud, to make you feel like you're going to get rejected or found out. So we can place this low self-worth into any category of our life, even from a spiritual or religious place. If we don't feel worthy or enough, it's going to have a huge consequence. Same thing with our health. Let's take that one for a moment. If your self-worth is so low and you think you have none, well, that would presuppose you're more likely to do behaviors to harm your health. Whether it be some forms of addiction, whether it be eating things which don't serve you, or not working out because you just don't feel you're of value to do so. So we know our esteem is directly related to what is showing up in our life. I'm going to say that again. Our esteem, our self-value, will be a direct equivalence, a consequence of what's showing up in our life right now. Because we mirror the world. We see the world through a perception. And if you see the world through a perception of I am not of value, you're going to see everything which mimics or matches your expectations. You define the expectations you put out there. Not necessarily consciously. Like, I'm not saying you consciously choose these things, but it does become an expectation for you and what you get back from life. It's a direct mirror. Just think about that. What am I projecting out into the world if I'm coming from a place of little or zero self-value? Not many good things. We might get some good things where people will be looking out for us, right? Because we don't feel capable, so people take care of us. But in reality, it's not that healthy for us to be taken care of all the time, because people feel like we need that support. And at the end of the day, although it can be hard to even imagine, you will get that support without the problem if you raise up your standards and your self-value. So how then, if we've kind of just understood, well, that is truth. I mean, I think we can all agree that that is a level of truth. If my value is low, my outcomes and my results are going to be low as well. How do we start to change? If we feel like we have, sorry, I keep hitting my mic there, so I do apologize, getting too excited. How do we go ahead and change our self-value? How do we go about doing such a thing? Well, to me, we have to start at zero. Not that you have the zero self-worth, but like the part of us which we think is nothing, but in reality is something. You see, when we think of high self-esteem, we usually then relate that to a great amount of wealth, a great amount of relationships. Where it be family, with our relationships with our children or our colleagues, all those situations. We equate a high self-esteem to a high happiness of life and the things we have in our life. The money, the abundance, the career, the health, the relationships, the spirituality, once again, if that's important to you. That's just how things really happen, right? That's what we expect. But that means if we equate high self-esteem to all the good things, yet we have low self-esteem, and we equate that to all the bad things, it's going to be very hard to get to that place of all the good things, because we're never going to get there yet, right? It's too much of a big leap, you could say, to suddenly go, I'm not worthy, to I am worthy, to I'm not good enough, to I am good enough, or I am of value. It's too drastic, especially if you've been told over and over again throughout your life that you are not of value. Maybe you had parents who had high expectations and you felt like you could never live up to them. Once again, we're putting down here. Maybe you had a sibling and they were put on like a pedestal and you never felt like you were an equal. They were the golden child and it made you feel not enough. Maybe you had certain teacher experiences. Maybe you had friends experiences where maybe we've been bullied. Maybe we felt lost or alone. So we've been told, maybe through people or through experience, as the consequence of a significant emotional event, to have a certain conclusion on our value. And then when we think of all the good people, and I say good as in like the high self-esteem and all the things they've achieved, that we can never get there. So we have to then break it down. If we can't get there right now, what can we do to establish some form of parameter, some sort of foundation, a level zero almost, to build our esteem? So my question for you is this: regardless of what people have said, regardless of what people have done to you, or the judgment on identity on ourselves based on the experience we've gone through, focus not on the big things for a moment, because you haven't got them maybe. Like you may not have that career, or you may not have that business or that money. Focus on the small things right now. If you were to make a list of the things that you know you're good at, and if you go, Joseph, I am not good at anything, I have no value in anything, I would beg to differ. Let's just say, and you may not have all of these, but let's just say, what are some initial things that you do every single day, consistently, that is good for you? Well, every day, most probably, you get up. For some people, you get up at a certain time, so you're very consistent in getting up at a certain time to maybe go to your job or to do the things you've got to do. Well, that's a quality, right? That's a quality. Not everyone has that quality, like I said. Well, what are other things? Getting dressed, brushing our teeth. There are certain things that you do over and over again that you take for granted because it's normalized as a way. Like if I think of me believing I was not enough, which was once true, to now that I am enough, I don't really think too much about being worthy, deserving, enough. I don't like wake up and go, wow, today I'm worthy, deserving, and enough. I just know it, right? Once you know something, you don't have to build upon it. You don't have to keep, it just becomes second nature, right? So the things that you do, which are very, very small to you right now, is still important. Just because it's second nature. Maybe that you are there for your friends. Maybe even though we don't like necessarily the people pleaser role because we can do it too much, but it shows you have a kind heart. It shows that you have an essence about you, that you don't maybe neglect people when they're needing something. Like there's maybe got to have boundaries there, but if we take the intention, it shows you're a good person. Maybe you have a pet, and maybe with that pet you feed them every day, or you take care of their litter every day, and like you take the dog for a walk, or whatever pet that you have. These are qualities that you do every single day. There are some people, maybe about food. Maybe you're really good at food. Not for everyone, of course. But focus on what you are good at. Focus on the things that you take for just granted, second nature. Something I think about sometimes. Now, I like and love to run. Like today I ran 4 miles. Sometimes I think, and not from ego, I think, well, I wonder how many people can actually run 4 miles in like the whole world. I might be in a percentage group of actually being able to do that. Like that's the quality. I think that's pretty awesome. Like that's not from ego. I'm just trying to think, that's a great quality that I like to go for running, and it gives me something, and I do quite a few miles per week. I mean, it's not a crazy amount, but for some people might think it is a crazy amount, because I think I do around 12 to 16, 18 miles every single week. For some people, that might seem ridiculous, like so beyond what they thought is possible. But for me, I take it for granted because I've been doing it for so long. But when I pull back a second and go, actually, that's pretty awesome. Like, I don't dwell on it too much, but I like to consider it. So ask yourself, can you go ahead and write down today some things that you take for granted that are actually good qualities, which are actually of value, from the so-called smallest thing of brushing your teeth every morning, or to getting dressed in the morning, to the qualities of other things which you may perceive bigger than that. Maybe it's driving. Just consider that. Maybe there's a passion that you have, something that you just love to do. Well, that's a quality. That's a real amazing quality. And if you struggle with this, one thing, and we've said this probably a few times on the podcast, I actually have a process around this. I don't think it's in the public, but I've got a process, and you can just do it by yourself right now if you want. But if you just look through the eyes of someone who loves you, maybe it is the pet. If you were to look through the eyes of that person or animal, how do they observe you? The good people, the good friends, the people who really like and love you. If you have to say, I've got no one, okay, it might happen for some people. Maybe you need to get a pet. But there's going to be many of us, if we really get outside of our own perception, our own conditioning, the comparison to what other people have, to then break it down to the small things, and then even look through the eyes of someone else who does like or love us, a friend, a family member, a pet, like I said. Maybe if you are, say, religious, look through the eyes of your God. Like, there's lots of things we can do, and the chances are you're going to probably find a few more other values and qualities. Now, I don't want you to necessarily dwell upon them, but I don't want you to ignore them. Because if you wake up every single day and just lightly consider some of those qualities you have, what does it do to us? Well, on a psychological, on a neurological level, you're switching from lack to have. You see, if I compare myself to other people, I'm always going to be in lack. If I compare myself to the abundance I don't have, I'm going to be in lack. If I'm just going to think about the bad relationships or the relationship I don't have, I'm going to be in lack. I don't have it. So if I don't have the self-worth right now, I need to switch my thoughts and my focus to what I do have. And when we go to that level of feeling, the emotion which is going to be linked to what I have that is good is gratitude. Like, if you can go, wow, I'm good at this, no matter how big or small, you start to feel gratitude. So yeah, I do get up every single day. I can be grateful I brush my teeth twice or so, whatever. Hopefully it's twice at least. But like, you can feel grateful for that. Or if you look through the eyes of your pet, you can feel grateful for that. And that means you have something. And then you compare that to the old belief of I am not of value. I am not of worth. How can that even possibly exist? Now, it doesn't mean the belief's just going to disappear, but it gives you a building block. It gives you a start to do something differently. It gives you from feeling like you have nothing to having something, which is tangible in terms of you can observe it. You can understand it. And then you start to build upon that because you have that gratitude. Now, the interesting thing about the brain, whether it be for the positive or the negative, it tries to look for more of the same. So whatever your most consistent thought is, say, I'm not good enough, it looks for more of the same. Some will say it's called the reticular activating system. So in other words, if you decide to buy a brand new car, you're like, I want that make, I want that model, you suddenly see that car everywhere. Now that car was always there, but it wasn't important to you. But when you decided it was important, it began to seek out everything which is similar to that or is that. The same thing, if you learn a new word, you start to see that word in different places. Now, it was always there, but it was out of your reality, so your unconscious mind deleted it. If you start to think of all the things which could go wrong, your brain tends to find more things that could go wrong. But if you focus on the thing that you're good at, no matter how small, you're getting the unconscious mind to then seek out more of the same, which is similar. And sometimes what that will do is not only the same level of, say, so-called smallness, but it will try to stretch you to find something more that you were maybe missing, deleting, or ignoring, just like that word, just like that car. It will start to fill in the gaps of all the things you're missing to the bigger and greater things. Now that creates some form of unconscious momentum. As I said, it's not necessarily going to make you, I am not good enough to I am good enough. I have no value to I have absolute immense value. But it's going to switch your attention to what is of value to then start to build upon it. So in the beginning, you might be on the ground floor, but this is where you start to build the foundations. You don't build a building by starting at the 10th floor and then going down. You start from the bottom. So you build that foundation. Now, of course, like all foundations, you want to place yourself in an environment which is nurturing to that foundation. You wouldn't want to build a building in the sand, right? You don't want to plant a flower in a toxic area. So sometimes you need to move your environment and make conscious decisions. And what I'm trying to say here is if you are with, say, a narcissist or people who are overtly demeaning to you, whether it be friends, family, make some conscious decisions there. Plant yourself where you will grow. Find yourself a community. Work with someone who can nurture you in your experience to that level of self-worth. But at the end of the day, you've got to start with those lower levels first. Otherwise, you're always going to feel like you're missing something. One of the, not the worst things about low self-esteem, but one of the painful things is that continuous comparison, which always makes us feel lost and alone and broken. But once you start to build these foundations, you don't compare yourself to others. You may even change it from a negative comparison to now a modeling experience where you try to thrive to be like them in a positive energy, not through anger or shame or hurt or pain. But you also simultaneously, from the positive outlook, you start to focus from where you are to where you are. And since you've done some legwork of getting those foundations in place, you'll start to go, yeah, I have improved since yesterday. I have started from last week. Now, you may not be able to say that now because, look, we're just introducing this. And I even say that in my program. Look, we're starting here to get you to be undeniably self-certain and self-confident to live the life of your dreams. So it's okay to start here. But this here, this present moment, guess where that goes? It goes into your past. Well, the present moment is always the present moment, but this is the experience of this present moment will soon become a memory. And based on the quality of the memory, in terms of the good foundations, you will then compare yourself in a good way. So what you do now in seeking out the small wins, the small steps, it will actually gain momentum. It will give you some substance, something tangible that you can build upon as a foundation. So when people say, like, I have no value, I think that their no value is just deleting what is there. That's what it's doing. That starting frame of reference of I am not of value will delete the things that are of value about you. But when you start to make the conscious interaction of those small things, you will start to see an essence of value. Even to the lowest, small, or so-called lowest and smallest thing, you're pretty good at breathing, right? You're pretty good. Maybe walking or talking, even if it's talking to yourself, even if, look, those who have anxiety, you're pretty much a professional at anxiety. You're so good at doing anxiety, it just happens by itself. Now, of course, I'm being playful there, but ultimately, we're very good at running our issues. So the worst case, the least case, you can still have a little bit of credit that you've been very, very consistent at not getting your results right now. But we can start now to build consistency in what is possible by looking for the things we've been deleting. And that's why it's good to look through the eyes of other people sometimes, because instantly you have to change your perception if you change the eyes that you're looking through. It's just the way life works, because we're presently looking through the eyes of self, which is the subjective view of your reality. It's the lens that was molded to you based on the experiences you went through. In other words, the traumas, the significant emotional events, and all those things we've talked about. But once you go, actually, I'm going to look through the eyes, and if you struggle, and I really don't ever want to come across as egotistical. I'm very happy with who I am as a person. But the reason why I do what I do, like all the free podcasts, because I honestly want you to be the best version of you. I don't want you to stay in the same pain that you may be in, or the same kind of things that I was experiencing. Like, that's why I do what I do. Like, I love doing what I do. And the reason why I love doing what I do is simply because I believe that it's possible. Because I've been there, and that's what I do for a living. Now, if I believe that it's possible, in order to communicate this message, I have to simultaneously believe in you too. Because otherwise I'm setting you up for failure, and I would hate that. Otherwise I'm just speaking nonsense. But honestly, because I love doing what I'm doing and I know that it's possible and I'm saying it to you right now, even if we've never met or even chatted before, I just know the human potentiality that what is possible based on my observation and experience and results and the modeling. So therefore, you have the ability to do it. Even if you feel broken, unfixable, lost and alone, worst case, I said I don't mean this to be egotistical, but maybe look through the eyes of me. Even if you don't believe me, what would I be thinking of you in terms of your qualities, just based on my experience of working with people? Because I believe if I ever work with someone, that I believe in them. I believe I can get a result because I believe in that person. I've got to see that as the most fabulous truth, because I think at the purest level of us, you may know it, but I think we are love. That's just maybe people call it woo-la-la stuff, but I just believe our true essence is love. And if I operate that way, I want people to see that within themselves. But beyond that, as I said, focus on the small things, the things that you've been deleting that you take for granted. Look through the eyes of other people, and it's going to start to build you up subtly at first, but it will absolutely have to mean you are of some value. To the point, you being in this world, you being in this universe, in this experience of life, you make a difference. You have to. The nature of you existing means you've made a difference to the cosmos, to the world. You may not think it has a huge impact, but you being here does mean that, which to me is pretty remarkable. You make the universe that bit more interesting because you exist today. So I hope you got value from this podcast episode. So we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all those kind of places. And feel free to join us at youtube.com/Joseph Clough. But I hope you got value from this live episode. And of course, if you ever want to apply to work with me, if you are ready to be invested in money and time, because we put all our time into you on a very customized way, you can go to josephclough.info/talk. And when you go there, you'll go ahead and book a time to speak with us. It will get clear. You'd fill out an application, and therefore you'll get on a one-to-one call with the team, and therefore we'll figure out if we can help you or not. We'll get clear on where you are, where you want to be, what's getting in the way, and we'll come up with a plan to make it a reality. So it's time for those who really want that change to make that change. But if not, feel free to use all the 821 episodes of the podcast totally for free. That's what it's there for. There are hundreds of free hypnosis sessions on there. There are over 350 hours of free content that you can assume every single day. And it's all designed to be able to get you to let go of that imposter syndrome, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough, all of those things. And yeah, once again, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I look forward to speaking to you in a future one. Many thanks, and goodbye.